Introduce the panelists. This afternoon we have for us a great panel who will share their views with us, and they are Dr. I'm going to get this wrong for sure, Dr. Nikki Tarujevic.
Pretty good.
And she is the author of Eating Her Curries and Kueh, A Cultural History of Food in Singapore. And she is currently working in the Asian Studies School of Humanities at the University of Tasmania. Next down in line we have Mr. Tan Wen-Yu. He's the co-founder of Princeton Mind, a social enterprise that helps ex-offenders become entrepreneurs so that they can earn a decent living to support their families. And we have finally Mr. Nicholas Ng, the co-founder of the Food Bank Singapore Limited. And this has been set up together with his sister Nicole. They both share the same passion about food and vision of feeding the needy. Right. These things are a little bit, erratic. So what I've done is I've asked them to feel free to ask each other questions so that during the discussion, should they have questions for each other, things could become quite interesting. All right, this session should last about an hour, and the theme of today's panel discussion is Get Involved, Makanising for Change. So the whole theme of this panel discussion is talking about getting involved and getting involved in social change. So to start, what does it mean to use food as a means of outreach and to provoke social change for each of you? Nikki.
Thanks, Daniel. Well, I had the advantage of having this question a few days ago, but actually I'm not sure it really is an advantage, because I looked at the question and I thought, I don't actually know what that question is asking me. And I think the reason that I struggled to think about what that question meant is because actually food can mean a lot of very different things. So we could be asking a question, why is it that we think that food might have this capacity for social change? Or how is it that food has a capacity for social change? And those have quite different answers. But I think for me, the capacity of food to change people's lives relies on the fact that food is both universal, we all eat, if we don't eat, we die, but it is also very specific. So the way in which we interact with food is very much caught up in issues of identity and class and location. And I think that the capacity of food to change people's lives has to be about the specific context in which it is in. So a lot of international movements around food to promote social change begin with the principle that people are disaffected from food, and so part of the purpose is re-engaging them with food. Clearly in Singapore we don't need to re-engage people with food, right? Already people have this connection, so the social change capacity I think has to be in a different area, and perhaps we'll talk about that later in the session.
Right. Wen-Yu, what do you think?
Hello? Yeah. Just to borrow a few lines from what Nikki mentioned earlier, it is true that in Singapore we don't really need to re-engage fellow Singaporeans in food. So, and also another line is that I think food is indeed a necessity. Everybody needs to eat it. I think for us, I co-found Princeton Mind. So what we do is that we help ex-offenders become entrepreneurs. And one of the favorite industries that we have always engaged our students to go into is food. I mean, for the two primary reasons that Nikki mentioned earlier, one being that everybody needs to eat, and everybody loves to eat. So at this point in time, what we have done is that we have helped students to set up, we have 10 of us students who are actually in the food business, selling nasi lemak. So for me, food is really, food induces social change through entrepreneurship. Most of our students, they are incarcerated for more than 5 to 10 years. But after going through, after helping them, they had the chance to learn how to start up a business. On top of that, we help them get real estate, negotiate for store rental rates to be lower. So a number of our students are actually doing quite well now. So to me, food is definitely for entrepreneurship, and that's how we see it changing lives.
Thank you. Nicholas.
Yeah, my turn. Just a slight more background about myself. Me and my sister, we actually also run a food distribution business. So it's from that food distribution business we had the idea and the vision to start up Food Bank, which is actually a charity by itself. So in terms of the question, like Nikki mentioned, again, we are all going to steal lines from Nikki, but when I looked at the question, I had no idea what the question meant. The first instant I read it, because it was, first thing that popped in my head was, what is the definition of social change? So it really depends. If you are a middle class, for example, social change, the person could think that you want to be high class or in the upper tier of the people. But in terms of food, I don't know when answering the question, but in terms of food, everybody needs food, and I don't think food, to me, I don't think food is can invoke social change, but I think it's a real necessity and everybody needs to eat. At the end of it, people need food to sustain their lives, and then only when they have food, then they have the energy, and when they have energy, then they can continue working and all that. So it really depends on how you look at the question, but I think food is just essential for everybody. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Remaining with you, Nicholas. The question now is, Singapore has become a very expensive city to live in, and as the price of food continues to increase, many middle to low income families have problems putting food on the tables as salaries aren't increasing as quickly. What are your views on this, and how do you think the various stakeholders in Singapore, the state, civil society, VWOs, and ordinary people can help to put food on the tables of people who need it the most?
That's a 100-point question. But okay, just some personal experience. When we first started doing business, when we sold vegetable oil, for example, in restaurants or hawker centers, you see those big metal tins. 5 years ago till now, that same metal tin has doubled in price. So rice has probably gone up at least 30%. Sugar overall has probably gone up 20-30%. Essentially everything has gone up. But salaries has not gone up. I know people in the industry, my peers and other companies, that are still paying local Singaporeans $900 a month. To me, I find that absolutely unacceptable, because I don't understand how anybody can survive $900. And that person, sometimes we find these people when they started working for us and we pay them. Now I think my average salary is $1,300, $1,400. It's still not, it's probably not enough, if you ask me, but it's still more than $900. To them, they could survive apparently with $9 to pay their HDB flat, to feed probably 2 kids, to feed the wife, and the wife is probably not working sometimes, because if you, for example, if you're looking at a family with too many kids, the mother has to stay at home. So the husband's working and pulling back $900. So in terms of various stakeholders, a minimum wage would be a really good idea. I don't know how the government's going to implement that, or whether they want to implement that, because once you implement a minimum wage, I mean, this is from personal ideas, that means we will have people under the poverty line. Because right now, without a minimum wage, nobody is poor. At least that's, yeah, I'm probably opening a big can of worms, but yeah. So I think the government's trying to go there and having suggestions of what the minimum wage should be, but they have never put their foot down and say that you need to give this as a minimum wage, like I think Australia has it, North America has it, even the part-time hourly salary Yeah, that sort of thing. I think previously McDonald's, I think many years back, used to pay $2.50 an hour. Something like that, if I'm not wrong, yeah. So in Singapore is one of those countries that it's supposed to be first world, but some things we are very third world or second world. In terms of NGOs and all, I think everybody's trying. And I think government is doing their part in trying to encourage people, even encouraging people not to waste food. I think that's one of the reasons why we started Food Bank, at least me and my sister, not to waste food, because everybody throws away. My competitors, my peers, they never have, or they will tell you that they never have a short shelf life problem. We sell canned food items, so the shelf life is 3 years, but even we have problems of maintaining shelf life. So apparently they don't have problems with that, but I don't understand. But they don't want to donate it out. They rather throw it away. A better case in point is supermarkets. They are a huge waste of food. And this is not just talking about your vegetables and your ugly fruits and everything. If you talk about packaged items, they get the big companies, they get every supplier, your Unilevers, your Nestle's, everybody they can think of. As long as the product is 3 months shelf life, they will tell the supplier to take it off the shelf and bring it back. Okay, this is part of their rules and regulations, and it's part of the supermarket's thing. So every supermarket forces them to do that. And what we have found out, because we are in front of industry, that they just bring it to Tuas and dump. Because they don't know where to sell it to, they don't know how to get rid of it. And if we ask them to, why do you donate it to Food Bank, which we redistributed to old folks' homes and everything, a lot of them are still very skeptical of donating it to us because of brand equity and so on and so forth. They are still not very open, like I think Australia, the US, where the US started their food bank. They are more open, and like Kellogg's and Nestle's and Kraft are very strong supporters of food bank. But here, everybody is, lack of better word, kiasu, that they don't dare to give out and run the risk of having some brand problems, even though I have all the legal papers in hand. But okay, I shall stop.
Nicholas, I've got a question for you. Taking Daniel's suggestion that we can ask. I wonder if one of the issues is that we, and I don't just mean Singapore, but globally, we actually have to accept that food is an expensive thing, and that the amount of money that we put aside in weekly budgets for food, we just have to accept that it's more than we have been used to paying for that. I mean, food is actually, correct, by international standards, very reasonable in Singapore.
Okay, but if you're looking from my point of view again, because the industries that at least my company usually service again is hotels, restaurants, and if you think how do restaurants survive if they buy all their food items from supermarkets and paying high rentals, paying high salaries and everything? It's because they don't buy from supermarkets. They buy from people like me. And what we do is we sell them industrial size packs. In Singapore, we don't have warehouse companies and all that to sell food. Like we sell baked beans in a 3 kilo tin. Okay, so based on that alone, the costs would be much lower because you save on packaging, you save on everything. Then what Singaporeans could try and do is maybe don't buy from supermarkets. I'm not saying that you have to buy from me and buy a 3 kilo tin because you might not be able to finish it. Of course, then if you could share with your neighbors and talk to them and say, I'm going to buy a 3 kilo tin of baked beans, why don't everybody take a kilo each? You probably save 60%. But if I'm going to open another can of worms, NTUC is supposed to be the people's supermarket. Okay, they are supposed to be the supermarket for heartlanders. Okay, people who are poor and struggling to make ends meet, you never go to cold storage and buy. Okay, cold storage is not their clientele. But the problem with NTUC and all the other supermarkets in Singapore is that, okay, if anybody here has this fantastic new product you want to sell, okay, you want to sell to everybody in Singapore, you have to go through going through supermarkets like NTUC. You will have to list the product in. Okay, when you list the product in, okay, you will have to pay a fee. Okay, this is a general fee, and this is the first fee. The second fee you have to pay is depending on what stores you want to go into and how many stores you want to go into, you have to pay another fee. So NTUC now currently has 110 outlets. This is not including the petromarts, okay, with your Fair Price Express and all that, and Cheers. 120. So you have to pay a fee for each outlet. Okay, that's 120 outlets worth of fee. You have to pay a merchandising fee. Okay, you're supposed to pay the supermarket staff to help you stack your items and all that. On top of that, you have to pay a promotional fee where you have to give a promotion every once a year. This is on top. This is from your own pocket, and you have to pay a promotional fee to NTUC. And then minimum once a year, no matter how small you are, they will probably ask you to pay for advertising. If you go, I think NTUC is every Thursday, every Friday. You flip the Straits Times, you see this 2-page, 3-page, everything is paid for by suppliers. Okay? And then on top of it, they say you still have to hire your own merchandisers to stack your items. So you're already paying a fee to pay NTUC to stack. But they say if you don't have a merchandiser, then they kindly threaten you saying that maybe your product might just disappear from the shelf because nobody's taking care of it. That's what they say. Okay? So if you add all those fees up, what would the suppliers have to do? The cost might only be $1. But if you add everything up, the suppliers might probably have to increase the cost of it 300%, 400%, 500%. Oh, and remember the thing I said about 3 months before expiry, they ask you to take it back? You also have to account it in, saying that, oh, if the thing doesn't sell, I have to account for loss because I have to dump it. And that's another cost. So you add all these small things up, your cost will go up crazy. Okay, you take a simple thing like pasta. Now everybody eats spaghetti. You take a regular brand that is acceptable like San Remo. Okay, right now without promotions, about probably $2.50, $2.60, $3 for a normal 500-gram pack. I'm selling an Italian brand of pasta, which is the world's #2 brand. Okay, I'm only selling it to restaurants at $1.60. I mean, partly because I don't have to pay all those fees, but my quality is 100 times better than San Remo. Nothing against Australian pasta, but
I take no offense.
but yeah. So if you can just imagine just a simple packet of pasta, okay, the difference is almost 90 cents. That's a huge amount, and I'm still earning from $1.60, and I'm earning comfortable amount. So if you look at that, and then how do you feed the people? How do the people feed themselves? Because it's just crazy. So yeah.
I can agree with what Nicholas has said. I used to work in a supermarket a long time ago, and yes, what he says is absolutely true. Right. Let's move to Wen-Yu. It has been said, give a man a fish and he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish and he can feed himself for life. How is this relevant to what you are doing, and what changes would you like to see in the context of Singapore society?
Okay, I think that's a very apt analogy that is used for the work that we do. I mean, essentially what we do is that we help our students gain skills so that they can start up their own business. Conventional methods of helping ex-offenders is really to feed them into jobs, finding jobs for them from them. But this approach hasn't been the best, because like what Miss Claire Chang said from Banyan Tree, I mean, earlier on she said that she hired a few of the ex-offenders to go down to units, the hotels to work, but the tattoos that they have in their body scare away some of the customers away. And besides that, some of these students of ours, ex-offenders, they'll bring in their friends. The friends would come in, look for them, and this creates a little ruckus, hence driving customers away. And because of that, a lot of employers steer clear of hiring ex-offenders, because sometimes the cost is not just the monies that you pay to them at the start, but also because of the high turnover. Typically, ex-offender students, they don't spend more than 3 months on the job. I mean, for a number of reasons. There are a number of reasons why the current conventional methods have failed. So the reason, two factors, it's intrinsic and extrinsic. One factor is because most of our students, they want to be paid decently. But unfortunately, if you look at, I mean not unfortunately, it is very common. Most of the students that come to our doors, they don't have a very high educational qualifications. They don't have a lot of skill sets. So like what Nicholas correctly mentioned, a lot of them earn only $900. After coming out from incarceration, they go off to work as a cleaner somewhere, $800, $900. So this is their pay range most of the time. So most of them actually stay in rental houses, and with food supplies becoming so expensive. I mean, this student of ours, Zhu, so he earns $800 per month. $200 goes to renting a rental flat. So they rent houses here. And on top of that, he has 3 or 4 children, which is of school-going age. So he has to pay for their academic fees, tuition fees, and that's not to mention the escalating food prices in Singapore. So generally, most of the pay that they can't survive on the pay that they get, the pay that they have obtained legitimately. One of the interviews that I conducted with an ex-offender, so he was telling me this, wow, I tell you, last time when I was a gang leader, I used to earn $10,000 peddling drugs. Then I was thinking, that was in one of the halfway houses. So when I spoke to him, I said, yeah, I mean you earn $10,000, but you're doing it illegally. But the thing is that for most of them, the reward of a quick paycheck is something that always drives them back to going into doing illegal things. So helping them is very difficult from the extrinsic point of view, because the pay-wise is very, very low. I mean, you're comparing $10,000 possibly for 5 hours of work, $900 for a month's worth of decent work. That's actually a lot. And the intrinsic factor is this. Most of our students, those that are incarcerated, a lot of them are actually gang leaders. So there's one student who actually spoke to me and said that, well, when you last time in the past, I used to command a gang. There are 10 gangsters under me. So they used to command a lot of some sort of respect from all the gangsters that they used to have under their wings. But now when they go out to the actual society, they're faced with a lot of issues. I mean, even if they want to turn over a new leaf, employers more often than not would maintain a more biased stance towards them. Nothing wrong with that, because after all, they have squandered the chance that's given to them by society. So this is something that we perfectly understand. And there are situations in which this student shared with me saying that, my performance is similar to this. I mean, my sales targets, I hit it together with another employee. This employee doesn't have a record, but I have a record. But when it comes to promotion cycle, every time I'm always being bypassed. So intrinsic factors wise, in terms of rank, in terms of prestige, they're always lagging behind. So that's one of the 2 main reasons why conventional employment methods have more or less failed. So I mean, we've been thinking it for a long time as to how we want to help them. So my partner, Professor Kaiwan, who's currently an NTU professor, he spoke to me and we came up with an idea to help ex-offenders. I myself, I'm with the government, so I do investments for the government into startup companies. So together with Professor Leong's knowledge, what we did was that we came up with an entrepreneurship program, which is what was mentioned about giving them a fish, as in teaching them how to fish, rather than giving them a fish. So what we do is that we help our students start up their businesses. I mean, there are a number of factors why this works. Because when our students succeed, firstly, how much they earn really depends on their own ability. Doesn't really depend on how society views them. Because after when you look at a plate of char kway teow, it's just a plate of char kway teow. Regardless of, I mean, they don't brand it an ex-offender cooked char kway teow or things like this. I mean, it's it's just a char kway teow. So this is the first point. The second point is that, I mean in Chinese there's always this saying, 能者勤者多得. You work as much as you want. You earn. I mean, you reap what you sow. And the third thing is that for most of these students, when they came out and they run out their own businesses, it gives them a lot more satisfaction as compared to them working under the employ of other people. So based on this, what we have done is that we have generated at least 10 success cases. I mean, one simple example is one of our students, also featured on Sunday Times. His name is called Bala. So Bala was incarcerated for theft, manslaughter, myriad of offences. So I mean, was incarcerated for 13 years. So when he was there, his son was born. So I think when he came out, his son couldn't really recognize him because his son was actually born when he was in prison. So during that period of time, he did a lot of self-reflection and he wanted to make good of his life. So when he came out, he joined a cleaning company, earning his $800, $900, but he soon realized that it's actually not sufficient. Because on top of his son, his wife is not working, he has to support his mother. So based on just drawing $900 and paying your rental and food prices aside, it's really nothing left. Nothing left for the child to go to school. So he came to us, we brought him under our wing, we taught him how to start up the business. So this includes helping him with the business plan, sharpening up the business skills, negotiating for a lower rental rate when it pertains to getting a hawker unit. And on top of that, we also help him do his marketing. So guess what? I mean, after helping him for 6-7 months, recently I went to his store. Wow, his store is in Bukit Batok Crescent, Vega Complex. So when I went down there, I asked him, can I order this? I was expecting to give it to me for free, but he didn't. So, I mean, what I did was, okay, I bought the food. It cost me $5, nasi biryani, together with some tandoori chicken. So altogether it's 3 plates and 3 dishes and rice. $5. I'm from the government, so I roughly know that the margins are quite high for food, especially Indian food. So, I mean, if you are just using a gross margin of 50%, which is very conservative, you are talking about $2.50. And what I was doing there was I was counting the number of plates. So 1, 2, at least one day he sells close to 70, 80 plates. So 80 plates multiplied by $2.50, that works out to be $2,000 around there, just by selling up. Of course, I'm not including the rental, the conservancy, the utilities. But if you're looking at it, he earns close to, I mean, just revenue aside, it could be easily more than $10,000, easily more than that. And now, I mean, he told me that he earns $2,000 a month, which I don't really believe. But well, but I mean, it's a good thing. He currently for him, it's a good thing. He's currently hiring his own family members to help out. His son is now getting more frequent tuition. And besides that, he's also in the process of opening up a centralized kitchen. So this is one of the many examples that we have. So we are currently following up with, we have students also in the landscaping business, we have students in the designer business. And to be honest, a lot of these students, they're not really that bad. A lot of our students, when they started out, they were incarcerated, but so their characters are actually not bad. The reason why they were, a lot of them, when I interviewed them, the main reason why they were incarcerated is because when they were young, they came out from very poor families. So when they're young, the father and mother spent a lot of time working, didn't have time to look after them, and as such, they got into trouble. They mixed with the wrong type of people, and because of the loyalty that they have towards their friends, when their friends do something wrong, they do it together with them. One simple example I can share with you is 18 Chefs. So there's this social entrepreneur in food. His name is called Mr. Benny Teo. So he was originally a drug offender, ex-offender. He went off to UK to study under Jamie Oliver. So when he came back, he opened up his first outlet at Tiong Bahru. So he specializes in Western food, pastas, cheese baked rice. And what he does is this: he hires ex-offenders. So there was a period of time when he shared with me an example. He said that he had an ex-offender whom he promoted to become a chef. So the unit at Tiong Bahru actually closed at 9:30 p.m. And what happened was that, he shared this with me, at 9:45 there was a customer that came to the door. Conventional.
And what can people in Singapore do in order to change the situation that we are in now?
Okay, that's a really big question. All right, so let's go back to the fish analogy. So if the issue is that you should teach somebody to fish rather than give them the fish, there's another part of that. They need to have a river. And one of the key issues in food security is that we have to think about where food is sourced from. And, by any conventional definition of food security, Singapore would be deemed to be food insecure, simply because of the amount of food that's imported and its precarious water supply. Historically, Singapore has negotiated that through the use of the port. But I think in the future, this is going to become a much more complicated solution. I think the Stienberg project in China, looking at extraterritorial food source, is part of that solution. But Singapore is also involved in a lot of innovative research and development work, looking at agricultural production in Singapore, high-tech solutions. And I think that, technology has been the solution to a lot of Singapore's geographic challenges and will continue to do so. I do think that giving people a sense of where food comes from is really important. And when I think about the questions we're thinking about social change, I guess that is the aspect that I'm particularly interested in. And that people feel very differently about food when they've grown it, when they've thought about how long it takes to get from a seed to their dinner plate. And that actually changes the way that people think about food waste, about responsible consumption, and that going forward, food security, not just for Singapore but globally, is going to require some responsible thinking about consumption. So saying that, maybe we have to eat less of these things, and maybe we have to, be much more creative about what we do with our food waste and use that waste to do other things. And so thinking about those kinds of capacities. Do I think the future is bleak? Actually, I don't. I really think that we will innovate to overcome these issues, but we have to think about it in some different ways. I've just recently been at a conference, and I listened to a very interesting paper about biodiversity in East Africa. And one of the things that was evident was when aid agencies think about food solutions, they think about increasing crops, right? We just need to build better farms, better infrastructure, and get more food, and that will feed people. Actually, that's not really the solution. People need a varied diet. They need to be eating a variety of things, and so that requires biodiversity. And in Singapore, it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily make sense to say, right, we're gonna urban agriculture everything, and we're just gonna make verdant buildings. And the haze last week is a reminder why there are some challenges with verdant buildings. But there is a capacity for us to think about growing food as part of that solution, and I guess that I'd be very interested in seeing more of that. And we can see that in projects where school children engage in growing things, that it really changes their attitudes to foods, and I think there's a lot of capacity for social change there as well.
Right, thank you, Nikki. Do you guys have any questions about that? Or can I?
No questions. Just a quick add-on. I don't think the future is bleak too. I think what's happening with the school system right now is I think the government did a switch. Besides needing creative people and everything now, in the past we were just cramming, and I couldn't cram. So, but what they also try and do now is to encourage, meaning you must clock a certain number of hours for what do you call it?
Service learning.
No, what's the government term for it?
Community service?
Yeah, some community service or ECA or CCA now or something like that.
Co-curricular activities.
Yeah, and so you need to clock a certain number of hours, if not you can't pass, or you can't, not even in primary and secondary school. So what, at least for my side, what food bank we're trying to latch on now is to tell all these students or tell all these teachers, since you have to find a program, okay, and we want to try and start from young. So if we can hit the kids when they're young, to teach them to recycle, teach them not to waste food, teach them to return their plates at the hawker center. You know, it starts from young. When they grow up, it's a lot easier. Trying to educate that old person to return that plate of hawker at the hawker center and not to waste food, they don't understand. Because our parents, my parents' generation, they all grew up when it was the boom time. Everybody get paid 5,000, 10,000, their CPF is 100%, 50% by employer, 50% by employee, whatever the number is. So everybody was rich in that sense. But now if you do it from young, it will help a lot. And I think what we also try to do is not just to get them to go door to door and try and get food donations from flats and all that, but we also try and fill the whole circle by getting them to go to a old folks home, for example, and they see all the old folks needing to push the old folks out from the rooms in a wheelchair and feeding them, and the old folks can't feed themselves and all that. Then they really truly understand that food is so important. Food is I can't waste food anymore. If not, I'll just end up like this person, and if I waste food, this person needed the food, and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it's not bleak. It's just if we don't start soon, it's
just complicated, right?
Yeah, very.
I mean, you know, I think often we want one easy solution, and there's not one easy solution to any of these issues.
Right, lovely. Ladies and gentlemen, are there any questions from the floor? Wow.